Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregivers Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. Join Dave and his guests now as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassaney.
From Los Angeles, the Big LA, welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land and from the Big Apple in Manhattan as well, on the other side of the country with Adrienne Gruberg, my co-host, lovely co-host, I might add.
Thank you.
Say hello, Adrienne.
Hi.
So we are on the air on Facebook Live and 15 other platforms like iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud, Listen Notes, Blueberry, Player FM, Podcast.com, VIP Internet Radio, and Facebook Live, plus my website, CaregiverDave.com. Voted number 2 podcast of the top 6 best caregiver podcasts of 2017, and we're shooting for 2018. Because it's almost over.
Yep.
And we have an exciting interview planned for you today with Adrienne, of course. And we will be interviewing Breeda Miller, a published author. Let me say that again. Breeda Miller, a published author. That sounded good. Award-winning storyteller, voiceover professional, caregiver, former caregiver probably, and successful businesswoman. So before we get started, I want to take this moment to thank my last week's guest, author, speaker, coach, former caregiver, Del Gerard. He was a good interview, wasn't he, Adrienne?
Yes, he was.
Powerful guy, and you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of those many global platforms that I mentioned earlier. So, well, enough of that. Let's get to our guest. Now, of all of my guest accomplishments, Breeda Miller states that her most fulfilling role was caring for her frail mother at the end of her life. And as a member of the sandwich generation, Breeda managed to run a household, manage a business, and raise 3 teenagers, 2 with special needs, hello, wow, while providing round-the-clock care for her ailing mother. And if you're not quite impressed yet, she's also a professional member of NSA, the National Speakers Association, as well as the president-elect of NSA Michigan. She's a graduate of University of Detroit Mercy, a professional voiceover artist. I do voiceover. She appeared on the Moth Story Hour, which I don't know what that is, but you might, Adrienne, being in New York.
I do.
Yeah, of National Public Radio. And she's a published author and an event professional. So she's a pretty VIP, very important person. We like to have VIPs on our show. So Brenda, welcome to the show. So excited to have you on.
Well, thanks very much. I'm delighted to be here, Dave and Adrienne.
You hear that, Adrienne? She's
Thank
delighted.
you.
Delighted, absolutely.
Delighted. Well, you know what? We are delighted to have you here. And just so my guests know just who you are, why don't you take a minute or two and tell us, why was Breeda Miller put on this earth?
Well, I try to do damage wherever I can, basically. I have evolved a lot in the time that I've been on this earth, as you say. And I, first of all, was, adopting my 3 kids. They were always meant to be with us, and I truly believe that.
You adopted them all, huh?
All of them, yes.
Wow.
And they're now young adults. They still are at home. They'll probably never leave. But the good news is I never have to worry about who's going to let the dog out, so it works out nicely. But
like
no,
that movie,
they're wonderful.
Failure to Launch.
Kind of, yeah. But we're working on it. Things are good. And then also just being there to care for my mom, and then learning from that experience, those 8 years of being her primary caregiver. And then taking that experience, learning from so many others, and realizing that I could use my ability to speak to people, to write, and to show people that you can find humor and grace and really help people cope with the tremendous stress that being a caregiver really means.
Humor and grace, I love that combination. Combination.
It's a good combination. No,
You're
it's
gonna have
good.
to. You're gonna have to help me out, Adrienne. There's something
All
wrong with my
right.
tongue.
Yeah,
But
I like using those two words together because
yes,
when I say
me too.
humor, I'm always careful that, using humor in a good-natured way, never anything that is derogatory or is demeaning, never having humor at the expense of another person.
Right.
And then grace, I think of that as every opportunity I had to maintain my mother's dignity. That
Mm,
was at the forefront of my mind. Is that how can I help her? How can I do these things and maintain her dignity? And that took a lot of mental agility, which is the thing that if you are a burned out caregiver, you don't have. You're
that's
just
right.
getting through the day. And so my point about self-care is that if you want to be the best caregiver you can, that means you need to take care of yourself so that you are able to be mentally agile and to be creative.
That's right. And that almost sounds like a Bible verse that says, "Love others the way you love yourself." And a lot of
Hmm.
people don't love themselves very good. So how in the heck are they going to love others like their loved one, their caregiver? And that's one thing, Adrienne, I'm sure you'll agree, that caregivers sometimes are guilty of. They just don't give the proper respect to their elderly loved one, whether it's a parent or someone else. I always tell the story, someone came into the station with an elderly parent, and they obviously had Alzheimer's or dementia or something, and they were supposed to stay in the car, and he turns around in front of everybody in the store and says, "What are you doing out of the car? I told you to get back." And just humiliating this poor guy,
Oh,
and his little boy was there listening to the whole thing. And guess who's going to be treated that way when he's that age by
yeah,
his little boy?
yeah.
Got to be careful what we say and what we do.
Yeah.
So how did you end up as a caregiver? Now, if you have two special needs kids, you didn't even mention that makes you a caregiver right there. What are their
Yes.
needs? And then how did you become a caregiver to your mother?
Well, I'm the only daughter. I have four brothers, so
Oh,
enough said, right? There you go.
yeah.
The default caregiver. It was just, I mean, I love my mother, and
But
that was it. I had no training. I didn't know what I didn't know.
None of us have training.
none of us.
No.
I'm trying to tell non-caregivers, now is the time to learn how to be a caregiver because you're either going to become one, you're going to need one, that's it. So don't ignore it. But they don't. They ignore me. So the special needs, tell us about that.
They're physically able, basically just low IQ, just cognitive
Okay.
disabilities. And my youngest son also had a really severe cleft lip and palate, so he's had a lot of facial reconstruction. And in fact, I was just on the phone today with some oral surgeons because he has this really major prosthetic in his mouth that adjusts his jaw and teeth, and he needs a new one. So we have to figure that out.
So
Wow.
will
Never
they
a
be
dull
able?
moment.
Will they be able to as they get older? How old are they now?
The eldest is 30, and then
Okay.
the youngest is 25.
Wow, how are they doing?
They're doing well. They both
Functioning?
work. They function. They're very healthy. They drive. I think the biggest challenge is the type of jobs that they're able to do really don't provide them with an income that can allow them to live independently and pay for the life expenses. So that's really the challenge that my husband and I really look to the future.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
not
another worry.
it's not cheap to live in Michigan, is it?
No, it's not. And we live near Ann Arbor, so it's a
Mm.
beautiful place, a nice place to live. It's certainly not as expensive as Los Angeles or New York.
Or San Francisco.
Or San Francisco, yes. But nonetheless, it's
So they're independent.
they are. Yeah, they're very good.
Good. What a blessing that is.
Yes,
I
it
know
is.
so many parents who are still, taking care of a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, and they're so worried about that child because when they die, unless you have hundreds of thousands of dollars to put them somewhere where they can, be not be a danger to themselves. There aren't too many people who share that love for that kind of a child unless you are the parent, So they worry about it. But you're blessed. What did you have as far as an overriding mission or goal when you were your mom's caregiver? What did you shift? What gear did you shift into when that happened?
That's a really good way to put it. What gear did I shift into? So my mom was this really delightful, charming little Irish lady, and she had a great sense of humor, and she loved people, and she was always just very graceful and gracious in her life, and I didn't want her to lose that as she became more frail. And one example that I could use is the words that I chose. I'm very mindful of how powerful words are. And when she became incontinent, she didn't know it. And she had some dementia. She didn't have Alzheimer's. She had vascular dementia. And she was very unstable on her feet. She had broken a hip and she was using a walker. And she was incontinent, didn't know it. And I didn't want to embarrass her. And I didn't know how to bring up the idea, or I didn't even know, like, are we supposed to talk about this? Or, you know, I didn't want to say the word diaper because honestly, I just knew intuitively that if you say the word diaper to anyone over the age of 3, it's going to be insulting or demeaning. It's not going to end well. So I just always referred to them as disposable underwear. And we never used the word diaper in our household, and it was disposable underwear. And so when the situation came up, that's how they were phrased. And that's one small thing, but it means a lot to the people whose lives are getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, like the guy who jumped off of the shuttle onto the moon. One small step for man, one giant step for caregivers. That's a good one. Do you think humor is important in caregiving? And can you give me some examples of your kind of quick wit?
Oh, quick wit, boy, that's not being on the spot there at all, right? No, I think humor is essential because I think if we don't find a way to find the humor in different things, then it's so stressful. And humor is a great release. But again, never humor that's directed at the person that you're caring for or about them, but just more about the situation. So to follow up on the disposable underwear story, the way that I came to get my mom to agree or to use these, there was a physical therapist who came to our house one day, and I explained to him how stressed out I was about mom and about her worry about falling and her incontinence and the spots and the mess. And I said, what can I do? And I said, plus she wasn't drinking her water because she was worried about having to get up to go to the bathroom. And so she thought, oh, I'm just not going to drink water, and then I won't have to pee so often, and then I don't have to worry about falling. And, you know, that's a really bad situation, dehydration and all that stuff. And he looked at me and he said, well, you know, Breeda, studies have shown that people who wear disposable underwear have fewer falls. And I looked at him and I said, what? And he explained to me that if you wear disposable underwear, then when you get up to go to the toilet, you're not in such a hurry. Because if you have a leak, who cares? There's no mess. It's not a problem. I said, yes. So so he left. I go in and I talk to Mom. And I said, Mom, I was just talking to Dale. And did you know that studies have shown that people who wear disposable underwear have fewer falls? And she looked at me and she said, is that right? Well, why is that? So I told her why and went through the whole story. And she said, do you think we could get some of those? I said, oh, yeah. And I was out the door like a shot.
Having it be her idea is the best.
It was the best. And it empowered her because she wasn't thinking about wet spots on my couch. And you know you can only flip the cushion the one time. Right? According to Seinfeld, anyway. But I didn't have to worry about, describing all the grief I was going through with changing the bedding and the messes and everything else, because she wasn't really aware. But she felt empowered. This was something she could do that could help her to be more stable. And that was the secret. So I removed all of her regular underpants, threw them away, and filled the dresser drawer with all these little rectangular disposable underwear packages. And we never talked about it again. And so we did it with good humor. So it was never a big talk. It wasn't something that was punitive. It wasn't anything shameful. It was, hey, here's a solution to something you're worried about. Yeah. And that's what made all the difference.
Good idea. How old was she when?
She thought of it.
Yeah, and she thought of it.
And she thought of it, yeah.
How old was she when you became her caregiver, and how old at the end?
Yeah, she was, I think 78. And then she passed away when she was 86.
So that's 8 years you were a caregiver.
Yeah. Like the first 6 years, not too bad. She was, she was mobile and we could do things. The last 2, she was very frail. And then she was in hospice care for 7 months.
Yeah. Was her mind okay?
It come and go, that she often referred, and this is, I find this right now really comical, but she often referred to the other Breeda. And she would talk to me about the bad Breeda. And she would say, "Oh, I'm so mad at that Breeda. She's making me take those mind-altering drugs, ibuprofen. And that bad Breeda, she won't give me coffee at midnight." And she'd get mad. And so whenever she would start complaining to me about the other Breeda, I would love it because then I could get the scoop. I could find out, well, Mom, what did she do today? Do tell. And I instead of getting angry about it, I'm sorry?
What you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
She's a monitor.
She would tell me, but it was really good. And instead of, I just tried to use humor instead. And one day she said, "Now I want the 2 of you to come in here because I don't want to have to repeat myself. Get the other Breeda." And I thought, what am I going to do? So I went out to the hallway and I got a hat and a scarf and a pair of sunglasses. And I came back into her bedroom and I said, "So, Mom, what do you need?" And she looked at me and she says, "I told you I wanted both of you in here now. Oh, is the other Breeda too busy on her computer to come in here?"
Oh, my.
Yeah,
That's funny.
She was a pistol.
So how was humor with your mother, Adrienne? Was there ever any humor?
Oh, yeah. With my mother?
With your
Never.
mother-in-law?
My mother-in-law, absolutely.
Yeah?
If she was...
Did you have to initiate it?
She was always lively and funny.
Okay.
I never had a problem with that. We spent a lot of time together, a lot of quality time, more than she spent with her son.
That's
because
a great compliment to you.
And she and I just had a good time.
Yeah.
Did she live with you?
My mother?
Yes.
Yes, she did. She did. After she broke her hip. No, actually, she had a stroke, and then she moved in with us. And then about 4 years into that, she broke her hip. So, yeah.
Well, listen,
it was a full house.
This is a good time to take a break, so hold that thought, and we'll be right back, so don't go away.
Welcome, caregivers. Thank you so much for finding your way to our community of loving and supportive caregivers. We as caregivers understand and know the day-to-day feelings of guilt, fear, and loneliness. But guess what? There is hope. I, Dave the Caregiver's Caregiver, along with my team of experts and caring caregivers, have made this site just for you. We are a community of caregivers that understands and supports you wherever you are in your journey. We are a place to connect with other caregivers, but more importantly, a place to get practical, actionable help. There are lots of ways for you to get support. First of all, you can download our welcome pack. This will get you started on your Thrive journey. Next, you can ask and get answers to your questions by posting them here in our private Facebook groups. You can also get live online support by attending one of our live weekly Connect webinars. You can get practical, actionable advice by listening to our weekly podcast. You can hear and read other stories about other caregivers' experiences. Plus, add your own in our weekly Share Your Story forum, posted every Tuesday in the Facebook group. You can access essential resources and download practical Thrive Solutions packs, all of which are geared to help you thrive as a caregiver. We know funds are tight, so we offer all of our individual Thrive Solutions packs, or for even a better deal, you can get lifetime access to all of our resources. Again, we are here to support you and help you thrive and to enjoy your life as a caregiver. And remember, this is a place to get hope, not just cope.
Yeah, and everybody should remember that we're giving a couple of gifts away if you go on there, caregiverdave.com, and just find a quiz to find out if you are a candidate for burnout. If for some strange reason you are not sure that you are suffering burnout. There are ways to determine this if it's not already obvious. And so, and I'm going to give you a free copy of my book, One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, a story of my life and how I managed to get to where I am today without killing myself or my wife. So that's very valuable information. So welcome back with Breeda Miller and Adrienne Gruberg of the Caregiver Space. And Breeda, you talk about something called a caregiver coffee break.
Yes.
Does that sound just like it means?
Well, there may or may not be beverages involved, and those beverages may or may not be coffee. I'm not going to say. This is a judgment-free zone here. But actually,
so it could be vodka or something.
It could be an adult beverage of some sort, or I don't know. Again, it's not for me to say. But the caregiver coffee break started out as, I speak to a lot of caregiver groups, and people would come up to me and say, Breeda, I love your stories, and I wish my mom could have been here, but she couldn't leave Grandma to come and hear you speak. And I thought, okay, how can I reach out to folks who aren't able to come and hear me speak live? So I created the Caregiver Coffee Break, which are a series of short videos that are little nuggets of the stories that I tell people in my programs. And they're free and they're on my website. And then the other piece is my book, the Caregiver Coffee Break book, which is purse size, pocket size, and it's very accessible. Each page has a nugget of wisdom, a story, an idea about self-care, and then many of them have links that you can go to get more information. So there's ideas, there's creative resources, creative solutions, and then resources that help out all kinds of caregivers. So I'm really happy about it. It's gotten a couple of awards, and people seem to like it. Yeah.
How many minutes is your nugget of video?
Each story is 3 to 4 minutes long.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah. So the whole idea is to stop, to take a break, watch. I had a colleague of mine that said to me that she was caring for her dad, and in the middle of the night, he was up walking around. She was stressed out, and she just thought, I need a Breeda. And she put on my website, she turned on one of the videos, and she said, you brought a smile to my face. I felt like you were sitting there across the table from me and just telling me a story, and I just felt better. And that made my day.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So how does someone get one of those videos?
They just go to breedamiller.com. So it's BREEDA, Miller.com. And there's a tab that has videos, and they are right there.
Great. So tell me, you speak to a lot of organizations. What's your primary message when you go and speak to caregivers?
My message is that self-care is not selfish, it's survival. And, the thing is that this is not new information. We all know that you're supposed to take care of yourself, right?
Exactly.
But I think caregivers are the worst because so many people as caregivers feel that it's selfish to take care of
Nobody wants
myself.
to be selfish.
No. That's
a dirty word.
That's a bad person, and I feel so guilty. How can I go to a movie and enjoy myself when Mom can't leave the house?
They need to redefine the word in Webster's dictionary, because when I read the definition, I don't want to be that person.
Right.
Self-absorbed, self-centered, narcissistic, it just goes on and on. So there needs to be a change there. I'm going to write Mr. Webster.
I try to bridge that gap, though, so that people can say they can acknowledge it. Yeah, I do feel that way, and that's why I don't do it, or I'm just too exhausted to do it. So in my program, it's all about giving a reason and a justification, and I go to the nobler concept of being a caregiver, serving others. And my point is, if you don't take care of yourself, if you are burned out, if you are exhausted, you're going to be a lousy caregiver. And is that what you want to be? I mean, don't you want to be your best self so that you're not short-tempered, so that you're not cranky, so that you are not just ready to snap at any moment because you're so burned out? Wouldn't you rather be that calm, engaged person who really is able to interact with the person you're caring for in a loving way?
Yeah.
And you can't do that unless you are your best self.
And of course, everybody says yes, but getting them to action is different.
It is.
I
It
mean,
is, and I have a series of steps. Yes, Adrienne?
you could talk about, humor and grace. And Dave, you asked me about my mother. Um, I had to, because she was as difficult as she was, and we had uh, not the best relationship, the most that I could do was assume an attitude of just being positive and
Mm-hmm.
not certainly not being critical ever, um, because it would have been exhausting for me to have this vitriol coming out at her. Um, it, it, it was just so much easier to be kind
Mm-hmm.
than not. And to me,
Makes you
the
feel better too.
lightness of that was like humor. That's as humorous as I could get with my mother. It was light.
Well, that works.
It worked.
It works. So you
Every
say,
situation is different, right?
Yeah.
yeah, and every mother is different.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
My mother was so sweet, and my mother-in-law, on the other hand, was the opposite. But she's much nicer today, these days, because she's weaker and she doesn't have the energy to be negative, and
Oh.
she's in a nursing home now, and I thought she was going to really, really not like this change, moving from her home where she was all alone, which was a danger to herself. But she said, "Oh no, I like it here. The nurses are so sweet, and they take
Why
care of me
didn't I
all the
do it
time."
before?
Yeah, she likes the attention. She likes to always be the
Oh.
attention, and
It's like
so
being in a hotel getting
yeah,
service, right?
even bad attention is better than no attention. And so,
Oh.
every day someone's breaking into her house or stealing this or doing that,
Mm.
and I don't know why they're doing this. I never treated anybody like that, but now these nurses, and she's really nice to them, so they treat her nice. If you're nice in a nursing home, you will get nice back.
Yes.
If you're not nice, well, I hate to tell you,
Look
but
out.
It's
you
not
get,
good.
what do they say? You get more bees with honey than vinegar, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now you say that hospice saved your life. What do you mean by
Yeah.
that?
Well, I was
Is it
just,
the morphine?
it could have been. No, no, no. No. But my mom was really failing, and I had no idea how bad things were. And I just knew that I couldn't do it any longer. She was sleeping all the time. She was seeing people who'd already passed on, and she was really, really failing. I had no idea that this was really near the end. And I just had a conversation with some girlfriends one time that one said to me, "Well, Breeda, have you thought about having her assessed?" And I said, "For what?" She said, "Well, for hospice care." And I said, "Oh, no, she's not that bad," because in my head, my ignorant head, I thought hospice means, imminent death, and that you've given up and it's the end of life and it's like a couple of days and you're gone. And I really didn't think that was the case. My friend, it turns out, was a hospice social worker, unbeknownst to me. And she told me all about the benefits and the services that hospice could provide, and how that, in fact, that many people's lives are prolonged because of the comfort and the services and the support that hospice provides. And then that provides the support for the home, that home healthcare aides would come to my house
Yep.
and give my mother the shower that I dreaded giving her. It just was the worst thing.
And they counsel the caregiver too,
Yeah, and so
inadvertently. I don't know if that's their job, but it goes on.
They support
did.
you. There's no question.
It was incredible. I mean, within 3 days. And so one of my other favorite stories is how I had to introduce my mom to the idea of switching to hospice care. And I introduced her to the nurse, Margaret, who came in that day. And I said, "Mom, I want to introduce you to Margaret. She's with hospice, and hospice is really going to help me. They're really going to help us with a lot of services," which I knew my mother would be happy about. And my mom put out her little hand and she said, "I'm delighted to meet you. I know all about hospice. You're a great group." I'm not ready to cope yet, but I will take all the help I can get. And I wish I would have had a camera for the nurse's face, because I don't think many people say that when they sign up.
He just has that Irish accent like Father O'Malley in
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, it was burned into my brain for all those years.
in White Christmas or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, no,
What a cute,
the nurses
cute
that came,
person she was.
oh, she was delightful. When she
Everybody
wasn't,
loved her.
the time she accused me of being an alcoholic was bad.
How's that?
And, well, because I don't drink. And I said, but Mom, I don't drink. And she said, denial, that's the first sign. What am I going to do?
That's so funny.
Oh, yeah. I was crushed at the time. I called my brothers. They thought it was hysterical.
Your brothers. Now, why weren't they helping?
Well, they lived out of state, but,
Oh,
three of them were great. The other one,
Did they send
not so
money?
much. They did, and
Good.
they called her all the time, and they came to
Good.
visit her. And
Good,
more
good.
importantly, they respected what I was doing, and they said, Breeda, you're there. You know what the reality is. We trust you. And the three of them never argued. They never second-guessed decisions that my husband and I made about her care, and that was probably the greatest gift of all.
Yeah. Well, I always tell caregivers who complain that I got no help. I got 7 brothers and sisters. No one will give me the time of day. I tell them, well, tell them to send money. And if they don't send money, then they're going to have Mom on their doorstep. You're going to put her on a plane, and you're going to have to take care of them. Make idle threats that will scare the heck out of them, and so that they write you a check every month, because money equals respite. If you can take money, you can bring in
Someone else, someone to care.
Yeah, what are some of those organizations like the Visiting Angels and other places that will just come in for a day, half a day, whatever, and charge a reasonable rate? So
It's so important.
it is so important. Everyone knows they're supposed to take care of themselves, right?
Yep.
So why do you think caregivers have a hard time doing that? Because like you were just saying, you're telling them all this stuff, and they're saying yes, 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 and they told me yes, and they've told Adrienne yes, and then you talk to them next week, and it's like you didn't have the conversation.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's because they're overwhelmed and they're exhausted, and then they just feel guilty. They haven't put the idea of self-care in the right priority or the right space. That it isn't, that if they need to think about it, that they're charging their batteries, so they're going to be in a better position to care for the others. And if they're able to do that, they're not likely to feel as guilty about just taking a break for 5 minutes to enjoy a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a cup of something, maybe on the porch or outside or in a different space where they can just have a few minutes peace, or to go for a walk, or then to extend it and maybe go for a workout, or to go to the library, or to go to some kind of a social gathering around a hobby. Like maybe they like to knit, or they like to do ceramics, or they like to go to see a play. Just physically go somewhere. Even just my favorite resource for caregivers is the library, because it's not a travel issue. If you're going to your local library, it's local. And so you don't have to spend a lot of time to get there. It doesn't cost you any money when
And
you're
they haven't been there in decades.
Haven't been there in decades, but you could access a computer. You could take out DVDs or audiobooks.
I know
You could
they
just
wouldn't.
look at
They wouldn't
magazines.
recognize a library today. It's got so much high tech stuff in it.
Oh my gosh!
You can go watch a movie at a library, for gosh sakes.
You can borrow equipment. Like there are some that are called makers. They have things at the library that you could. I don't know if you can borrow tools, but there's all kinds of equipment that you can borrow. It's a great resource that so many people don't even think about. But for caregivers, I think it's golden.
Well, I don't know. How do you help caregivers commit to taking better care of themselves? And that's the key word, commit.
Commit.
Should we have them sign a contract in their own blood? Because, if they don't do it, they're going to kill themselves anyway. And 30% of them die. 60% are getting sicker and eventually need a caregiver of their own. And half of them are feeling the same symptoms that Robin Williams and Kurt Cobain and Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain all felt, is that feeling that you're down, depressed, and hopeless, and that there's no way out.
It's true, and I think that those folks that you mentioned, obviously that's clinical mental illness. That's really, really serious. When I think of caregiver burnout, I hope it doesn't reach those depths, but I know certainly that it can. One of the things, and as you mentioned before, money is a great motivator. So you could tell them you're going to charge them if they don't take care of themselves. But actually, I have an exercise that I do. Or you
can just tell them you're going to put them in a nursing home. That's even worse.
Yes,
or better, a better motivator.
Oh, it's true. But one of the exercises that I do is I ask people we have this piece of paper. It's really simple, and you just have to write down one time a day. What is something that you're going to do for yourself that you're just going to enjoy? And as I say before, maybe it's just having, really savoring, being mindful about enjoying a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or watching a television program that's a half an hour, or something that you feel is reasonable, not that anybody else feels, right? And then one time a week, what's the thing that you're going to do one time a week that's a special thing just for you? And maybe it's going to the library. Maybe it's going to watch, a $3 movie at a discount theater. Maybe it's going to the gym. I don't know what it is. I don't know what is meaningful to that caregiver, but they need to write that down. Then one time a month, and this is something that's maybe costs a little bit of money or a little bit more planning. Maybe it's having a respite person come in to spend time with the person you're caring for. Mm-hmm. So you can take a half a day and go for a drive or something like that. And then one time a year. The idea is anticipation and having something to look forward to that you like, but planning for it, but not making it so outrageous or expensive or difficult that it's never going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And do it in those incremental ways so that every single day there's one thing that you're doing, and then every week there's another thing, and then every month, that whole kind of a plan.
Awesome. Someone visited you, but now they're gone.
Yeah.
I was waving, but they didn't see me.
Stealth.
Yeah.
Very stealthy.
So in a minute or so, what are your favorite hobbies? What are your favorite respites? What are your favorite breaks and things to do and interests?
Well, I do have a superpower. Okay. You ready? I'm going to brag now.
All right.
I can nap. I don't know whether it's
anywhere,
self-hypnosis.
Anytime.
Pretty much. And I can put my head down, tell myself to go to sleep 15, 20 minutes, wake up exactly at the right time, and feel like it's the next day. When my kids were little, I thought I missed picking them up from school. Or oh my God, the next day I didn't make dinner. Oh no, they're starving. And so that's my best thing. And I used to feel really guilty about it. And I used to feel that I was lazy. But I also am a migraine sufferer. And if I don't get enough sleep,
So what helps for the migraines?
What helps?
Yeah.
Drugs. No, I
what
have
helps
a prescription.
with you, Adrienne?
I wish it was drugs, but I was diagnosed poorly with an ischemic colon that contraindicated all of the drugs that are available.
Oh
so
no.
They took me off them after a lot of years of success. And now Botox and exercise and eating properly, not eating flour, no processed foods, and and not getting too much sleep either.
Well, that's never a problem for me. No.
Is that why you look so good, Adrienne, because of all the Botox?
The Botox is all the way up here on my hairline, down my neck, and into my shoulders.
Oh, so they're trying to get it into the brain.
Well, they're trying to affect the muscles so that you don't clench your teeth and you don't tighten your neck too much or your shoulders too much. All
the blood vessels, because it's a vascular thing. Yeah.
Right.
But for a woman, I would think that it'd be awfully tempting to say, "Doc, just go down an inch."
They won't.
Oh, good.
Not the real, not the
Oh, it's a different
real.
kind of Botox.
No, it's the same kind of Botox, but you can't ask a migraine doctor, can you give me a little extra
Just a little
here?
bit.
Yeah.
Just a smidge.
All right, well, that's a good time to take a break, so don't go away again. We'll be right back. Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere and at caregiverscaregiver.com. And we're back with Breeda Miller and Adrienne Gruberg and me, Caregiver Dave. So we had a good laugh about Botox there for a moment.
But I have a question about how often you get migraines and how much it impacted your caregiving.
I would get them maybe just once or twice a month.
Oh,
And
okay.
if I took, yeah, it was not on a daily basis, and it was managed.
Okay.
There's a sumatriptan that I'm able to take, and almost always within 45 minutes to an hour, I would be okay.
That's
But
great.
What would
but
cause
I'm
it?
such an optimistic person. I'm sorry.
What would cause the headache? Was there something that?
There's so many things, mostly
Oh.
stress, lack of sleep, hormones,
Yeah,
all kinds of stuff, you
all
know,
of the above.
Yeah.
all of the above. But the thing that I was worried about was that I would develop an immunity to this drug that was helping me so much. So I would delay taking it because I thought, oh no, I'm going to save it for when I really know it's a bad migraine. And by then it was too late.
Then
And
it
then
won't help it.
then it would work. So my doctor looked at me and finally just said, Breeda, take the pill. Because they're very expensive as well. And then if you take a really expensive pill and you're nauseous and then you lose it, you throw up, then it makes you have a bigger headache because you're thinking about that.
The guilt.
So,
The guilt of
yeah,
throwing
the guilt.
up.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, that's human nature, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't spend their money, and they go into retirement and they hoard, they hoard, they hoard. They live like church mice, and when they die, their kids are like, "Oh my gosh, they're worth $3 million. Why didn't they spend some of it?" You know.
Yeah.
I like that bumper sticker I saw in a car. It says, "We're spending our children's inheritance." They don't appreciate it anyway. I mean, they don't come by and visit. They don't call enough. Spend it. That's another show.
Yeah.
So how, I don't know. I'm sure you've heard great caregiver stories. Maybe you have some of your own. Maybe you heard some. What is your favorite all-time caregiver story that just makes you laugh or makes you warm inside?
Well, I think this is the story that I told on the Moth, and I told it so the Moth. I know that Adrienne said she's familiar with it, but Dave,
Yeah.
do you
What
want
do
to tell
they What do they talk
Moth?
about there?
They talk about anything. It's all about true stories.
Why do they call it the
And
Moth?
because people are drawn to the story like
drawn to the
moths
light.
to a flame. So people are drawn in by good stories. So
Right.
this was
Draw
a story.
me in.
Okay. Do you want to hear it? It's like 5 minutes long. Okay. So
Yeah, we got 5 minutes.
you got? Okay. I'll watch the time. So my mom was she was a lifelong traveler. She loved to travel, and she was happiest in her life when she knew that a trip was coming up, when she was anticipating it, when she had booked her ticket. So I this was just something I knew about my mom. And when she was near the end of her life, she was getting pretty anxious, and she would ask me for the bus schedule to Ireland. And I would say to her, Mom, you know, the bus schedule from Michigan to Dublin is not very reliable. And I'd try to change the subject and get her to drink a cup of tea. And she would not let up. I mean, every day. Are you going to get me that bus schedule? And I'd say, yeah. I'd change the subject, and I was tired. I was cranky. I was not my best self. I was not coming up. I had no mental agility to come up with a solution. So one night, and all I can say is I must have had a good night's sleep. That's all I'm saying. I can't attribute it to other than divine intervention, which you may believe as well. So one day she's sitting in her chair and she's very anxious. And I said, Mom, you seem really upset today. What's wrong? And she said, it's that Breeda. And I said, really? What did she do now? And she said, well, I keep asking her for the bus schedule to Ireland and she just won't get it for me. And I said, Mom, don't you worry about her. I'm here today. I'm going to help you. I'm going to go to my computer. I'll be right back. So I go to my computer. I sit down. I have no idea what I'm going to do. We couldn't actually go to Ireland. She was too frail. She couldn't travel. I kept trying to change the subject. It wasn't working. I didn't know what to do. So I sat and I just thought about it. And I thought, you know, what if I got her a fake airline ticket? Now, I always tell people I'm not promoting creating false documents here at all. So, you know, that's for sure. So I Googled fake airline boarding ticket. And up on the screen appeared the template for a boarding pass.
Oh, my.
And I thought, oh, my. Exactly.
You get anything online.
You can. Who knew? So there were these little fields to fill in. It said departing airport. I typed DPW. No problem. Detroit Metropolitan Airport. Arriving airport. Now this was tricky because I could go for Dublin or I could go for the gold. So I typed heaven and it took it. So just so you know, there is no airport code for heaven. It's the whole word. Okay. And then it said travel dates. I typed open, put Mom's name. Then I looked at it again and it said first class. Of course, this was perfect. Then I looked at it and it said it was American Airlines. My brother works for American Airlines, and my mom is so proud of this, and she tells everyone. So I stuck some print cardstock in my printer. I hit print, and, you know, instantly the card came out. I cut it to size, put it in an envelope, walked over to Mom in her chair, handed it to her, and said, Mom, you don't have to worry anymore. You're good to go. She looked at me. And now, you know how it is, you can look in their eyes and you know when they're all there and when they're not. She was there. She was present. And she opened up the card and she looked at it. She started to laugh and she says, oh, I'm going to show Father Will this one. And she did. She stuck it in her handbag. And over the next 3 weeks, when people would come to visit her, she would say, oh, wait, let me show you what Breeda made for me. And she'd pull it out of her handbag and she'd show it to them. They got a great laugh to say, you are really good to go, Mary. This is great. And
so she knew it was fake. You gave her the opportunity to tell a joke over and over and over again, and that was worth much more than a bus ticket to Dublin.
Absolutely.
You're brilliant.
And it was just the greatest gift because I found a way to ease her anxiety. She never asked me again, the bus schedule. And it was one of the things that I'm most proud of, I have to say.
I love the fact that she asked for a bus schedule to Ireland.
I know. I even said to her, but Mom, how are you going to get your walker up the bus, you know, on the steps? And she said to me, oh, they'll help me. They're very good. They'll help you get up.
I think if you pay the New York, the Staten Island ferry enough, they will go to Dublin. During the winter months of stormy seas.
Can you imagine? No.
Where is the time? Time just goes so fast. Any last-minute advice that you would like to give to caregivers before we call it a day here?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that I tell people is to take a break before you break.
Take a break before you break. Oh, before you break.
Yeah. Take a break. Plan it. Do it. Don't wait for someone to give you permission. Figure out a way to take care of yourself and don't feel guilty about it because you are going to be better able to take care of others when you are your best self.
So how long has your mom been gone now?
It's been gone. This January, it will be 6 years. So I think the wonderful thing is, you can hear from the accent, she's with me every day.
Yeah.
And I talk about her all the time, and I know that she is smiling down from heaven, and she's delighted to be the star of the show.
So I was going to say you do a great accent of your mother, but then you do voiceover, so you know all the accents, right? You could do Brooklyn, right? Do a Brooklyn accent.
Do a Brooklyn accent. Well, that might embarrass me.
Do Danny DeVito or someone.
Danny DeVito's a little rough. I just try to think of something that's a little bit rough.
De Niro.
Come on. De Niro. Yeah, I can sound just like Robert De Niro.
Anybody can do De Niro.
Barbara.
Barbara. I love Barbara. Barbara living.
Well, she has a Jewish New York accent that's slightly different.
Is it?
A little bit.
Oh, you mean versus New Jersey accent? Or the Bronx?
Yeah.
I used to think that people that were from Long Island would say Long Island, and
They
I
do?
learned no. They do. Some say Long Island. Another thing, it's interesting how people say their states, that if you meet someone from Wisconsin, they don't say Wisconsin, it's Wisconsin. Wisconsin. And I always think about the way people say their states. And New Orleans.
So do you make money? Do you make money from your voiceover? Is that one of your income streams?
It is, and I've done a couple of audiobooks, and that was fun, doing the characters and voices in audiobooks. But the challenging part about doing an audiobook, particularly if you're a writer, when you do the voiceover for an audiobook, you have to read it exactly as the author wrote it, no matter how bad it is. You can't fix it.
That's true.
If they say,
That's true.
you have to say it, and it can be painful. So,
Wow. So, Adrienne, what's going on in your life these days? I see you got a new hairdo, or you had it done, and
I need a haircut.
And your blue glasses, are those the same ones, or you
Those
switch
are the
them?
same glasses with blue.
How many colors have you got?
6.
Wow. You got blue, you got red, you got white.
I've got
what else?
blue, red, white, green,
Oh, I never seen the green.
tortoiseshell, black.
You're sticking with the blue, white, and the red, white, and blue. You should wear the others because I've never seen them.
You've never seen the green ones?
I don't think so. So you have favorites.
Yeah, I have favorites. I mean,
If
the
you wear
tortoiseshell
something
ones.
green, will you wear the green glasses?
Sure. No, once a year on St. Patty's Day.
just in honor of my mother, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I can't believe where the time has gone. I mean, when people say, oh, no, I can't talk for an hour, he says, yes, you can. Don't worry, it goes fast. 10 questions, boom, it's over.
Boom.
And a couple of breaks. And so what's your contact information, Breeda? If somebody wants to, I know you gave it once for the videos, but what else can they find on your website besides those wonderful videos?
Wonderful videos. I have a resource page, and there's some free downloads that people can get. I talk about finding humor, but oftentimes you can't remember what are those funny movies. What should I check out from the library? What should I watch on Netflix? I'm too tired.
Yeah.
I can't even think of it. So I made up a cheat sheet, if you will, of a list of TV shows and movies that aren't necessarily my very favorites, although a lot of them are on there. And it's just a thought starter, and it makes it easier when you're trying to figure out what to watch, what to do to give yourself a break. So that's on there. There's several other downloads.
Did you say butt starter? Is that what I heard you say?
Thought starter.
Butt,
Sorry.
B-U-T-T?
No, thought.
Thought.
That's okay.
Thought starter.
That's why I asked, because I wanted to make sure. But butt
I don't
starter
know
would
what
work
that would
too,
be.
wouldn't it? Get off your
Maybe.
butt.
You just made me think the one thing that consistently entertained my mother were Dean Martin roasts.
Oh, yeah.
She could watch the same roast again and again and again. She
There
loved
are
them.
so many on YouTube. You don't have to watch the same one over and over again.
Oh, I know.
I love
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. There's just good resources. So on the website, breedamiller.com, there's resources, ideas, things that, the only thing that I sell on my website is my book. And so
Right.
you can order my book on the website, but everything else is free and available.
And the
And
name
it's
of
really
your book
just meant to
again?
be. The name of my book is
Are you
The
going to hold it up?
Caregiver Coffee Break.
Caregiver
There you
Coffee
go.
Break.
Caregiver Coffee Break. 76 tips to help caregivers take a break before you break.
And just give us one tip, just at random.
Just one tip at random. Let me
Just
look
one
here.
tip at random.
Mental bingo. One of my favorites. It's important that it's mental. You don't want to write this stuff down. You don't want anything to be subpoenaed. But you write down the annoying, irritating things that they do or say over and over again. And then instead of getting irritated when they do it and they say it, you just check it off. You just check it off mentally. And then after they do it 3 or 5 times, which could be, 10 minutes, you could just say, bingo. And it becomes a game. And it becomes you controlling your reaction to negative behavior because you may not be able to change them. Mental bingo. It's a
I wish I
favorite.
used that with my mother-in-law
Very
because she
creative.
would repeat herself over and over and
Oh,
over.
yeah.
And then, I'll say, oh, no, you already said that. She goes, oh, did I? And then she'll
Did I?
continue where she left off, continuing to tell me, like, but yeah, if I made a mental note and made a game into it, then I wouldn't be so frustrated.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'd yell, bingo! And say, what? That's a good tip.
Exactly.
That's a good
Exactly.
tip.
Yeah.
So, Adrienne, how do we get a hold of you at the Caregiver Space?
It's Adrienne, ADRIENNE, at thecaregiverspace.org. The site's www.thecaregiverspace.org. And when you go to the site, all of the links to social media are there.
Awesome. And again, a reminder that all our live shows, including this one, become recorded podcasts on our website, caregiverdave.com, and on YouTube and Stitcher and all those other places that I sent you to. So I think we're at the end of our rope here, to use a terrible term, end of our rope. Most caregivers are at the end of their rope, but not us, because we know what we're doing over here. So I just want to say goodbye and thank my guests for coming on the show again. We appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us, and we will see you next week, same time, same station, same everything. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Caregivers Caregiver radio program with Dave Nassaney.